Part 66. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 652. Since I was urged, I had to write the paper quickly. Greed checked the current number of admitted patients and determined that there should be enough cases within half a month, so he went straight to the Tower of Sleeplessness. The first is to find the paper that originally revised delaying pain and supplement the information. The second is, to split the money. Pen, Archmage Edgar looked at him in shock from under the hood of his black robe. The eyes are faint, like two will-o'-the-wisps. Why split the money? Because I made something. Gretel gestured and used Silent Phantom to outline the appearance of the pain relief seal. After thinking about it, he waved it away. It's the modified version of delaying pain last time. I just used it in the medical clinic. So far, my medical clinic has just broken even, and there is nothing to be divided. But now, in cooperation with the Alchemy Guild, we can use it in the medical clinic. It's sold and the money must be divided. Black Crow Swamp was good to him, and the database was open for him to see, so he had to know good from evil. No knowledge has value. If he has profited from other people's knowledge, he should share it with the other person. But Archmage Edgar pulled down his hood, revealing his messy hair, and shook it left and right. That magician has been dead for many years. Where are you going to share his money? Dead. Greed was stunned. At that time, he was only focused on reading the content, and did not even bother to pay attention to the author of the paper or the time of publication. Archmage Edgar nodded seriously. Yes, he passed away. Moreover, he was not aroused from the dead. Greed's face twisted on the spot. Is this the case in your Black Crow Swamp, where you study desperately during your lifetime, and then you have to be pulled out of the coffin after death to continue your research? Fortunately, it sounds like the mage himself has a choice. No, even if I had the choice, I wouldn't choose Black Crow Swamp. If I die, I will be done with it, even if I am reincarnated or travel through time again. The old man admired his troubled look, leaned back, and chuckled. After laughing enough, he said, there is no need to divide the money. The knowledge left in the school and the income generated will all belong to the school. If your income is put into the account of the Tower of Sleeplessness, each magician will not get a few cents, so why not use it in exchange for knowledge? For example, how does your pain relief magic work? Greed thought for a while. This is really possible. If he shares something like knowledge, he will save a penny. Moreover, it can also reduce financial pressure on hospitals, right? Yes. How to change it? Paper or lecture? I can do either. Archmage Edgar made some calculations. Every paper, such as papers, must be submitted to the Lord of Thunder before being entered into the Parliament's public paper library. It's not a loss for Black Crow Swamp, but it's not a profit either. So, let's choose lectures. The two sides hit it off immediately. As a result, the circular lecture theater in the Sleepless Tower was once again lit up with lights. Have you heard? The magician from Thunderhorn is here to give a lecture again. Which one? You ask me which one. It's the one who stabbed Oliver's eye socket with a sharp knife last time and was rescued without incident. Olivier. Where are you going, Olivier? Hey. Lord of the Plague. You told me earlier. I'm going. Hurry up and grab a good seat. Let's work together. The key is not to grab a good seat, the key is to find a big guy to sit next to him, so that the secret eye screen is even and stable, and you can see comfortably. When Gretel entered the arena, the circular lecture theater was densely packed with people from top to bottom, in circles. In the gloomy black hoods, eyes as bright as will-o'-the-wisp stared at him over the railing. Gretel was worried as he watched, fearing that some section of the railing would break and dozens of necromancers fall down. Well, I hope they or their companions can react quickly enough and release the feather falling technique in time. If the 3 monks run out of water, they will have no choice but to be awakened from the dead. Further to the center of the classroom, all preparations were in place. 4 flying skeletons linked arms and carried a shadowless lamp. On the stone platform under the shadowless lamp, a skeleton of a teacher was already lying upright, just waiting for Greed to start dissecting it. On the trolley next to the stone platform, there are scalpels, dissecting scissors, tweezers, retractors. It's full of sincerity. Gretel actually wanted to say that if you want me to give lectures, there will be no other compensation. I will be a general teacher every month, and I promise to come once. But not this time. Greet looked at the general teacher reluctantly and sighed. There is no need for a general teacher for this content. Can you give me some frogs? They need to be alive. What? Frog? The necromancers were in a hurry. Boss, it's winter already. It's winter, the cold wind is howling outside the mystery lock of Igor Peak, and the snow is 3 feet deep. Where can I find frogs for you? Who experimented with frogs? Which group? Which group recently published a frog-related paper? There were whispers and discussions in the lecture theater. The necromancer closest to the classroom door was looked at by Archmage Edgar, and he shivered and ran away. I'll borrow some from the change department. Don't use malicious transformation to create it, Gretel shouted at his back from a distance. It's going to be dissected. The necromancer's feet slipped as he flew away. Fortunately, he ran slower and heard a cry from behind. What if he caught a rabbit and turned it into a frog, and brought it up, and then the Nordmark mage stabbed him down? The frog turned into a rabbit on the spot, and all the necromancers present were able to kill him with 1 magic missile each. Regardless, the frog, or bullfrog weighing more than a pound, made its way to the dissecting table. Along with the bullfrog, there were wooden boards, nails, zinc and copper bows, scales, beakers, sodium chloride, potassium chloride, calcium chloride. Gretel prepared Wren's solution, nailed the bullfrog, destroyed the brain and spinal cord, cut off the upper half of the trunk, and made a sciatic nerve gastrocnemius muscle specimen. While making and explaining, I was distracted and used Silent Phantom to display the recipe of Wren's liquid. This formula is a version used for frogs and other amphibians, which allows the body to survive longer. Now we use a zinc copper bow to stimulate the specimen, and under the see-through invisibility field of vision, we can better see the aura of life. Use delay pane to cover the body, and you can see the extension of the aura of life. If you split it into 2 parts, you can use see-through invisibility to see that one part corresponds to the central nervous system, and the other part corresponds to the peripheral nerves. Given that the zinc copper bow can cause potential changes, we have reason to believe that it is the weak current in the body that transmits the pain signal. In the lecture theater, there was a wailing sound while he was busy copying notes. I can't see clearly. Can't see clearly. I was able to see clearly with my secret eye last time. Why did I have to use seeing through invisibility this time? Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Thanks to @bookfriend 130402234640649 for the reward of 2,000 starting coins. Yesterday, a friend said that the problem with the readership is the group leader does not send ice coins. I can't buy ice dun-dun, I can't buy gold dun-dun, woolen yarn dun-dun can't hook, plasticine dun-dun can't knead, orange peel dun-dun can't make, snow dun-dun has no snow. I am the kind of handicapped person who has to draw up the drawings, assemble the material package, and then make a tutorial to make hand embroidery, and then the work is messy. Someone make me a dun-dun. Lying on the ground and smashing it. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 653. Gretel's lecture on the frog experiment, wrong, on central and peripheral nerves, and conjectures on nerve electrical signals, was a great success in Black Crow Swamp. After the lecture, the necromancers swarmed him and almost blocked him from entering. So the principle of the level 1 spell terror spell is to use spells to simulate electrical signals and conduct them to the nerves of the target. I don't know about this, but I can provide a test method. You use a silver cage, the denser the better, to cover the whole body of the caster. Try to see if it can weaken the effect of the spell. If you don't have enough money, cover it, maybe the head can also. So my suture monster always refuses to obey my orders. Is it because I injured my nerves while suturing? I really don't know if the nerves in the corpse are still active. Maybe you should do an experiment to test it? So, can adding nerve lines made of silver wire to the skeleton soldiers improve their control performance? Why the empty skeleton can move, I really don't know this. I have never made an undead creature myself. I don't know how to order, scold, or turn away undead creatures. I'm really not a necromancer. Fortunately, Archmage Edgar escorted him, and Gretel was able to leave the sleepless tower with all his beard and tail, and fled. After escaping back to his mage tower, Lin En heard that he was giving a lecture today and felt very regretful. Hey, why didn't you call me? I'm currently studying level 4 necromancy in preparation for advancement, and I want to hear more about it. Well, I was temporarily pulled to give a lecture. Greet shook off his sweat and said, then shall I give the lecture again? No need, you have to write a paper anyway, I'll just take a look at it then. Okay. Gretel didn't force him, and was determined to write the paper in more detail. He added an outline of the paper in his mind and stretched his head out of curiosity. Brother Lin En, are you already preparing for the advancement? Which spell do you plan to use to advance? Manipulate the dead? Disease? Or fear? When he mentioned an option, Lin shook his head. Greed told him all the spells he could think of, and then he saw the golden skeleton next to Lin, shaking his head like a rattle, and fell down with a snap. Click, 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 gililililug. In one breath, he rolled to the solace of Gretel's feet, spun around, and lay still on his shoes. Gretel. What you said has no meaning in improving my ability. Lin En smiled. Manipulating dead corpses, I already have a few skeletons to use, so I'm not in a hurry to learn it. The disease technique, since you revealed the transmission route of infectious diseases, it doesn't feel too difficult. The fear technique is nothing more than a level 1 panic technique. Scope. His eyes shone with confidence, and he seemed to have mastered advancement. He just wanted to pursue the best growth before choosing the most challenging research topic. I chose blood burning technique. This spell has never been used in a similar way before, so it's worth spending more energy on it. Oh, the blood burning technique, Gretel quickly recalled it. Thanks to Archmage Carlyle, although he could not learn the 4th level spells yet, he had memorized the names and introductions. Burning blood, a 4th level necromantic spell. Inject a hot, corrosive substance into the blood of a living creature, causing the living creature to be harmed by both fire and strong acid. The casting method is non-contact casting, the distance is 100 feet at 10 feet per level, and the casting material is 1 drop of blood at 1 saltpeter. Burning blood cannot affect constructs, elemental creatures, earth creatures, plants, and undead creatures. Simply put, it cannot affect anything without blood. It sounded like saltpeter was dissolved in blood, and then a spell was forced into the blood vessels of the target, and then ignited. Gretel shivered and still asked with concern. Was the study successful? What were the problems? There are quite a few problems. Lin frowned slightly. He was usually reluctant to trouble others, except Gretel. This guy often has fantastic ideas. Chatting with him can open up ideas and solve problems from another direction. First, the caster's resistance will be relatively strong, and saltpeter will not be easily injected. Second, it is easy to miss the mark. Even if it hits the torso or arm, the spell may fail. Third, after injection, it is easy to fail to cause fire and strong acid damage. Sometimes there is only one, and sometimes none of them can cause. Gretel frowned after him. As for the resistance of the target, he couldn't understand why remote casting could inject a substance into the opponent's blood vessels. But he did have some ideas for the next two questions. Brother Lin, let's do it one by one. To solve the problem of failure of fire and strong acid damage, I remember that saltpeter can be ignited and can also be retorted to make nitric acid. So, should we change to other casting materials, such as nitroglycerin? Lin thought carefully. Then, he asked Greet for a small bottle of nitroglycerin and went straight to the experimental area downstairs. Point at a rabbit, chant silently, and raise your finger. The spell resistance is much smaller, almost zero, but the damage is wrong. No fire damage, no acid damage. The rabbit fell silently. Gretel flew forward. He felt the carotid artery, then picked up the rabbit's eyelids and looked at it. Based on his experience, the rabbit should still be alive, but it seems to have low blood pressure. Also, a small grain of saltpeter can cause powerful fire and strong acid damage in the body of the target. If a small drop of nitroglycerin is poured in, won't the blood pressure drop to the bottom? Gretel thought nervously for a moment, then took a shot of inspiration technique. Plop, 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 a large amount of adrenaline is secreted, myocardial contractility is strengthened, heart rate is accelerated, cardiac output is increased, mucosal vasoconstriction, blood pressure increases. After a while, the rabbit's chest rose and fell, and its front legs barely moved. Greet, why did the resistance of blood burning technique decrease so much and the damage change when the casting material was changed to nitroglycerin? Probably because nitroglycerin is a medicine, it may be beneficial. As for the damage being greatly reduced, maybe it didn't ignite. Greet is sad. This magic can be modified and it seems that it can become a powerful clinical rescue spell. For example, give some adrenaline, some dopamine, some lidocaine, etc. It can skip blood circulation and go directly to the inside of the human body without invasive operations. However, it is too difficult to control the magnification of this medicine. Looking at the way the rabbit fell, it was as if he had drank a large glass of nitroglycerin rather than just a drop of it. Can I use 1 ml of casting material and the effective dose is only 1 ml? Forget it, let's look at the second question. It's easy to miss the mark and the spell fails. Is it because you can't identify the blood vessels? Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Lan 2020. Chapter 654. Let's put aside the dose and talk about toxicity. No, let's put aside the issue of dose control, just talk about the issue of remotely injecting medicine into the opponent's blood vessel. After repeated experiments and summarization, Greet and Lin discovered two rules. First of all, the stronger the subject's physique, the greater the spell resistance. The resistance of a cow is greater than that of a rabbit, the resistance of low-level monsters is greater than that of ordinary animals. Gretel jotted down a few strokes. He raised his head and looked at Lin with concern. So, if your enemy is a high-level powerhouse. So we have to find ways to reduce resistance as much as possible. Lin An smiled nonchalantly. Facing the powerful enemies we may face in the future, there is no trace of worry on his face. Second, the farther the distance between the input medicine and the human body, the greater the spell resistance. Have you tried it before? Previous people have tried it. For example, the resistance of saltpeter is greater than that of nitroglycerin, while the resistance of mercury and arsenic is already so great that the failure rate is 90% when the same level is cast against the same level and skilled. Otherwise, why choose saltpeter? It's a balance between success rate and lethality. It's not that the senior mages have never tried other casting materials, but they are either too laborious or the effect is too poor. For example, inject a drop of water into the other person's veins. My resistance is small, but it's useless. So Brother Lin, the material of this spell is changed to the components in the body of the recipient, so it has the least resistance, right? Yes, but dash. Lin An suddenly stopped speaking. I saw Gretel jingling, digging around in the space bag for a while, and took out a small medicine bottle. Brother Lin, will you try this? Lin An took it dubiously. If you look closely, you will see that the fine white powder looks similar to table salt. Pour out a small amount and rub it with your fingertips, the texture will be similar. Looking at Greet inquiringly, Greet nodded and smiled with encouragement. It's fine if you lick it and taste it. Don't worry, it's not poisonous. Lin took a lick without hesitation. Then, his face couldn't help but twist. So salty. So salty and bitter. If this thing is table salt, it will make you cry to death. Potassium chloride. Greet shrugged beside him. Impure salt also contains this, and blood also contains this. Brother Lin, come on, try it. Lin took a deep breath, drank a bottle of mental potion, and cast the spell again. This time, the magic power ran smoothly without any resistance. Sure enough, what is already in the body has the least resistance. The magical power wrapped around the blood and the potassium chloride dissolved in the blood, and rushed into the rabbit's body. In an instant, the rabbit let out a scream of pain and fell to the ground. Greet, with his sharp eyesight and quick hands, took out the stethoscope and handed it to the side. Lin quickly put on the stethoscope, pressed it on the rabbit's chest and listened. There is none left. There was no heartbeat at all. He glanced at Gretel in shock. Greet tilted her head towards him and spread her hands. That's right, this thing is really not poisonous. Just a small amount, if you drink 10 times the amount, nothing will happen. However, high concentrations of potassium chloride, injected intravenously, can cause cardiac arrest. In Gretel's previous life, this was the method used to carry out executions. Of course, intravenously injecting high concentrations of potassium chloride can cause severe pain. For humanitarian reasons, death row prisoners will be injected with anesthetics before injection. But there is no need to say this. Anyway, whoever Brother Lin N unleashes the spell on, it will definitely be a fight to the death. Brother Lin, you just need to remember that when this thing is injected into the human body, it will cause severe pain. I am not sure whether this pain can interrupt the spell casting, but once it enters the heart, cardiac arrest will occur instantly. Then, is there any way to save it? For example, using magic like detoxification to drain the potassium chloride from the human body. Gretel sighed deeply. If you drain it, you will definitely die. You don't even have to drain it. If your blood potassium is as low as 1 point or so, your muscles will be weak, your heart muscle and respiratory muscles will be unable to beat, you will still die quickly. Yes, potassium ions are such a magical thing. It's not good if it's too high, it's not good if it's too low. If you exceed the upper limit, you will die. If you fall below the lower limit, you will die as well. Lin put the bottle away with a solemn expression. With this trump card, if you move quickly, are injured, the opponent is of a higher level, or the success rate of spell casting drops significantly, it is equivalent to gaining an extra life. Brother Lin, I have another idea. it might be worth trying. Before he could say thank you or something similar, an idea flashed in Greet's mind and he interrupted hastily. Try the air. If you don't have anything with you, injecting air and blood into the enemy's body might work. When people take risks outside, there will always be times when they become homeless and lose everything. But if his calculation is correct, then if you wipe a drop of blood from your body and hold a handful of air, you can use this spell to counterattack. Lin was confused for a moment, but after seeing Greet urging him again and again, he still did as he said. Gretel kept coming up with ideas. Heart. Aim for the heart. Pour air into the heart. This is the fastest. While commanding, he had already thrown out a blood oxygen saturation magic and an electrocardiogram magic, which landed on the rabbit. On the light screen, it was full and bright, with 100% saturation, and the ECG lines were regular. Everything on the rabbit looked normal. The spell is thrown out silently. There was no fire, no acid, nothing tangible that one would immediately notice. In other words, if you use this spell to assassinate someone from a distance, the probability of being noticed will be greatly reduced. However, not long after the spell was thrown, the blood oxygen saturation plummeted, and the rabbit breathed rapidly and became restless. The electrocardiogram was running up and down like crazy, and not long after, a straight line was drawn out. Heartbeat stopped. Lin said in shock. Gretel sighed softly. Yes, air embolism caused cardiac arrest. Brother Lin, you must be careful with this magic. If you throw it at the wrong person, I'm not sure I can save it. Don't worry, Lin agreed. He looked at Greet and hesitated to speak. Before he could speak, Greet had already answered. Want to report to Black Crow Swamp? Want to write a thesis? It's all fine. But Brother Lin, you have to help me disassemble this spell. I want to study how it controls the dosage. No problem, Lin An slapped her thin chest loudly. Don't worry, I will never leave Nevis until I teach you. Do you want to go out on adventure again? Although he was worried, Greet also knew that everyone had their own path to advancement. Just like Greet himself, if he didn't work hard to practice medicine, he might be stuck as a priest apprentice. As for Lin En, if he doesn't go out to explore, it will probably be detrimental to his development. Therefore, Greet had no choice but to work hard to delay the learning progress and let Lin get more familiar with this magic. Of course, he had his own troubles. So how exactly do you determine blood potassium levels? Beside Lin, there was a plate of potassium chloride, a pair of tweezers, and a row of rabbit cages in front of Lin. It has progressed to the point of pinching one pill, casting the spell once, pinching another pill, casting the spell again. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Hyperkalemia and hypokalemia are both really dangerous, really. Be sure not to take it lightly. And let me sigh, Gretel is really good-tempered and unwilling to kill people, otherwise even a high-level mage would not be able to guard against him. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 655. Greet missed the fully automatic blood analyzer in her previous life. For that thing, after connecting the pipes, plugging in the power and turning it on, you only need to place the test tube containing venous blood under the probe, let the probe absorb the blood, and then the report will be automatically printed. The measurement value is more or less, the reference value is more or less, there are arrows marking the higher and lower values. A small tube of blood can test dozens of items without any problem. What? Do you need to add anticoagulant, centrifuge, dilute, measure, and wash the machine after the measurement? There is no such thing as a fully automatic blood analyzer that automatically connects hemolytic reagents, diluents, and cleaning fluids. As long as the fluids are changed regularly, there is no need to fiddle with it every time. Such a useful gadget only costs more than 10,000 units. It's a pity that after traveling through time, there is nothing left. Sell me another one. I can pay 100,000. Pay with gold coins. Unfortunately, I can't buy it. Gretel had no choice but to start over from scratch, scratching his head. How to measure potassium ion content in serum. Basic chemistry, did not teach. Pathophysiology, did not teach. Diagnostics, did not teach. How about you try the blood test magic from last time? Gretel frowned. As a last resort, he really didn't want to use this method. There is so much information required. The amount of calculation is too much. How many people and blood do I have to save before I can slowly figure out the standard? But when there is really no other way, we can only use the stupidest method, little by little. Gretel took several tubes of rabbit blood, lined them up, and placed one hand on the gold box. Identification of blood. Identification of blood. Identification of blood. Moss, help me analyze the picture. There should be only one difference this time. Tolling agreed. Then it made a sound that was somewhere between the buzzing of a bee and the whirring of a fan. The pitch is stable and the sound quality is uniform. It can be called a model of white noise and is particularly hypnotic. Gretel didn't know how it learned this trick. But in short, after a period of dubbing for himself and enjoying himself, Tailing pulled it and revealed several cubes. Boss, there are quite a few different points this time, more than one. Gretel. So how do I control the variables? How to control the variable to only potassium ion? Lin An's magic is gone today. It's very expensive to skip a level and cast a spell that you've just studied halfway and hasn't reached your own level yet. Etc. I'm just measuring potassium levels, I don't need a spell. I can use the same rabbit, inject potassium chloride solution several times in a row, and then draw blood, right? Gretel rolled up his sleeves and kept working hard. For the first delay pain local anesthesia, administer 1 ml of 1% potassium chloride solution intravenously, wait for 3 minutes, and draw blood. For the next delay pain local anesthesia, administer intravenously, wait, and draw blood. There was a row of smoke. It wasn't until the rabbit looked a little desperate that he took out a tube of calcium gluconate, a product of glucose and hydrogen peroxide and calcium carbonate, mainly used to try to make tofu, and injected it into the rabbit. Damn it, luckily the rabbit is still alive. Gretel raced against time to finish writing the experimental record, picked up the last tube of blood, and released the spell. Identification of blood. Moss, please help me analyze these pictures. This time, Gretel only glanced at the cube where Moss appeared and circled the abnormal point, and then jumped up from his seat. In a row of cubes, only 2 points show an obvious linear correlation. One of them is a beautiful lavender color, from light to dark, like a veil. Purple. 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 The flame reaction of potassium ions is purple. Purple. So, there is a certain correlation between the color of blood identification in the meditation scene and the color of the flame reaction. Greet's heart was pounding wildly. If so. If this is the case, then at least the contents of blood sodium and blood calcium can be measured using flame reaction. At least 2 of the puzzle pieces he needed have been solved. In order to ensure that this idea was feasible, Gretel caught 2 more rabbits and injected them with potassium chloride one by one from the smallest to the largest. Then use blood identification to illuminate it next to each other. The purple part still shows an obvious linear correlation in color intensity. Feasible. Let's try sodium chloride again. No, just drop the sodium chloride solution directly into the test tube that was tested before. After the sodium chloride solution was added dropwise, some of the cubes displayed by Moss showed correlation with the yellow color. Good, at least blood sodium is possible. So, then. Come on, how do you determine what the concentration is? Looking at the color of this light, how can you tell whether the blood potassium concentration is 3.5 mol/L, 4.5 mol/L, or 5.5 mol/L? I still want a fully automatic blood analyzer. I am willing to pay 10,000 gold coins to buy it. However, a fully automatic blood analyzer is not possible. Gretel had no choice but to roll up his sleeves, prepare a 4 mol/L standard solution, and take a picture of blood identification. You must read it for me, you must read it, you must read it. If you can't read it, I can only rub the flame ion photometer with my hands, and then pray that this thing is sensitive enough. Hey, not necessarily. You can also try to write out the thesis and then tempt the Department of Change to do it. Thankfully, blood identification is not completely incapable of interpreting liquids other than blood. Although most of the data was missing, the purple that Gretel wanted was still displayed in the meditation field of vision and in the cube displayed with the help of Talling. Moss, can you compare these colors? Which one is thicker, which one is lighter, which one is the same as the other one? Sure, boss. After Moss was silent for a moment, probably doing calculations, he answered in the affirmative. Then, a bunch of cubes began to be moved and sorted. The reading result of the 4 mol/L standard solution configured by Greet was accurately inserted into the queue. The shades are orderly and distinct. Moss also specially made a red line to connect the standard solution to a cube next to it, clearly indicating these two are the same. Very good. Since the 4 mol/L standard solution can be prepared, then 3.9, 3.8, 3.7, 5.5, 5.6, these should also be prepared. It's just a matter of spending a little more time, preparing it, reading it with blood identification, and letting Moss remember the chromatogram. Then, take one copy and compare one copy, take 2 copies and compare 2 copies. By the way, you can leave the standard solution to others. Mr. Norwood. Mr. Norwood, please do me a favor. Prepare one for me of the standard solutions of potassium chloride and sodium chloride according to these proportions. If it is convenient, let your students also prepare one for each. One serving to avoid errors. Okay, leave it to me. Master Norwood agreed immediately. Greet threw away the work and immediately began to figure out how to establish the blood test process. Taking blood, that's no problem. Taking blood test, that's no problem either. Obtaining information, this, is barely a problem. If the patient is willing to pay 10 contribution points for a chip, the information can be obtained on the spot and sent directly to the Mage Tower. Can't afford it? Then you have to take blood, then apply anticoagulation magic on the blood sample, put it in an ice bag, and send it directly to the Mage Tower manpower delivery, or APA's deer power delivery, and hope that the blood sample will not deteriorate on the way. Then the Mage Tower compares, produces the results, and returns the results. Even if it is the fastest APA express delivery, the round trip will take less than half an hour. If you catch up and memorize it, by the time the data is returned, the patient may have died. Hey, it's indispensable to build a special Mage Tower in the hospital. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. I got up early this morning and went to the hospital for a B ultrasound, which revealed mild fatty liver. I cried loudly. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Giolan 2020. Chapter 656. Chapter 655, Principle of Flame Reaction. Teacher, don't explode. There are only 2 ways to change the dilemma of Loli's express delivery being slow and prone to problems. 1. Build another Mage Tower. 2. Create a magic that can directly produce blood test results. Gretel thought for a while and realized that the plan required too much financial strength. For his first mage tower, the price quoted at the time was 50,000 contribution points for the ordinary mage tower, and 50,000 contribution points for the high-level magic tower, for a total of 100,000. Greed touched the mage badge. He didn't even have 10,000, let alone 100,000. A Caesarean section operation, without considering the cost, has a net income of 400 to 500 contribution points. If you want to save up to 100,000, you have to perform 200 paid operations. Oh no, now we have signed a contract with the parliament to do 400 cases. Female magicians throughout Nevis, as well as the spouses of male magicians, want to collect 400 paid surgeries. It will take at least 3 to 5 years, right? In addition, if you want to build a mage tower in the hospital, that will be the second tower. Will second suites, second towers, experience price increases? Hard to say. Gretel weighed his own strength and could only choose two at the moment. If you choose the second option, there will be a lot of work to be done. 1. Collect all the data he can think of, for example, potassium chloride standard solution as low as 1 mol/L and as high as 15 mol/L, and get the light and color feedback in detecting blood. 2. Pack all the data into magic. 3. Add an automatic comparison mechanism. When a drop of blood is obtained for testing, it can be compared with the data in the database, match the same one, and provide feedback to the caster. So how do we encapsulate this data? Gretel started scratching his head. When he was studying blood test magic before, he never encountered such a thing. At that time, there were only 4 blood types in total, so just remember the symptoms. But now, there is a thick and light purple, which is impossible for him to compare with his naked eyes, or his naked eyes in meditation. I don't feel like a spellcaster, but like a programmer. Gretel muttered, rolling up his sleeves and working. No matter how it is packaged or compared, the first step is to collect data. The prerequisite for collection is to ensure that the concentration of the standard solution is correct. 1 for Master Norwood, 1 for each of Master Norwood's 2 apprentices, and 1 for Gretel himself. 4 solutions were cross-compared to obtain the most accurate data. When it comes to the patient's life, Greet doesn't dare to slack off at all. Weigh 1.9068 grams of potassium chloride, hell, I don't have a balance that is accurate to 4 decimal places. I only have one that is accurate to 1/100th of a gram. I guess I can use it. Burn to constant volume without popping sound, cool to room temperature. Dissolve in a small amount of water in a 300 ml or Lenmeyer flask, move into a 1000 ml volume trick flask, dilute with water to the mark, shake well. Get 1 mml/L potassium ion solution. Okay, let's start with 1.1. Gretel felt dizzy. Until next week's regular meeting, when the Lord of Thunder asked about his phased results, he also blurted out. I found that the principle of blood detection, identifying bloodline, seems to be somewhat similar to burning with flames. At least, casting a spell on potassium and sodium can stimulate the same color. Oh! The Lord of Thunder paid slight attention. Although he is a legend, it is impossible for him to notice every tiny detail of magic. The world of magic is endless, and one person's power is ultimately limited. He had known for a long time that flames burning metal would produce different colors, but is the principle of the spell distinguish bloodline similar to this? There is no flame in this magic. Gretel took out a tube of solution with his left hand and a chip with his right hand, and handed them over together. The chip can be excited to see the color. For the solution, you can use a colorless flame to burn it, but let him burn it on the spot. Grinding a methane blowtorch, burning potassium chloride solution, etc. Greet said that his specialty is not playing with fire and he cannot do it. Before he could look around to find someone to rub the flames with, Archmage Baebo stretched out his hand and the test tube and the chip flew over together. Holding the chip with his left hand, the light curtain was activated, and a cluster of colorless flames burst out of thin air in the palm of his right hand. He is indeed a master who is researching Yanjian explosion. Make a fire casually, just like playing, effortlessly. At the same time as the flame rose, the test tube stopper popped open automatically, and the potassium chloride solution poured upward. For a time, there were 10 or 20 people in the office, all eyes were focused on those two pieces of purple light. It's indeed the same. The colors are really exactly the same. The archmages remained silent, observing carefully and thinking silently. Standing near the entrance of the office, several of the second-generation disciples of the Lord of Thunder could not help but whisper to each other and discuss. Is it really the same? Is there a slight difference that can't be seen with the naked eye? It is indeed the same. Gretel glanced back at them, turned around and nodded to Archmage Baebo, and then bowed to the teacher. I have roughly measured the wavelengths of these two kinds of light, and they are indeed the same. From this, we can roughly infer that part of the magic principles of identifying bloodline should be similar to flame burning. What do you think the principle is? The Lord of Thunder suddenly asked. Greet opened her mouth to answer, but halfway through, she suddenly stopped. I have no idea. Really do not know. The Lord of Thunder frowned slightly. Greet shook his head desperately. Really do not know. Just kidding. The principle of flame reaction is the change of electron energy level inside the atoms of matter. In other words, the electron absorbs energy, jumps from a lower energy orbit to a higher energy orbit and then jumps back again, releasing the excess energy in the form of light. In this world, the understanding of matter has just reached the atom and has not yet penetrated deep into the atom. How can I be sure? How to prove it? What if the underlying operating rules of this world are different from those in the previous life? Unless I personally verify it, I will never say anything. Not a word. This is something we will deny even to death. The Lord of Thunder looked at him deeply and stopped asking questions. He carefully observed the image of the chip light screen, then lowered his head and thought for a moment, then stretched out his hand. The remaining half of the potassium chloride reagent floated into the palm of his right hand. Distinguish bloodline. The legendary mage pondered slightly, and the magical light on his fingertips silently lit up and kept changing. Gretel sat at the far end of the disciples' line, watching the light expand and contract, and occasionally burst slightly. He whispered. Maybe the feeling of electricity will be a little different. The Lord of Thunder suddenly looked up at him. As soon as the cold electric gaze came over, Greet felt his spine go numb, as if he had been electrocuted. He gritted his teeth, straightened his back and looked at the teacher, but the Lord of Thunder lowered his gaze again, as if he was meditating. Suddenly, a bolt of snow-white lightning exploded from the Lord of Thunder, illuminating the entire office instantly. Gretel's field of vision was completely white, and nothing could be seen except the passing electric current. Teacher, don't explode. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 657. The moment the electric light came on, Gretel froze on the spot, not daring to move. His mind went blank. There are only a few words in bits and pieces, floating on the shallow level of thinking, and they are completely unsystematic. High voltage electricity, current, potential, step voltage. Paralysis, convulsions, cardiac arrest, organ damage. Don't move at all. As long as you don't move, you won't encounter step voltage and won't be electrocuted. Speaking of which, this is really useful around high voltage power supplies. I seem to remember that I would be directly penetrated. Or do I need to put a Faraday cage around myself? Or maybe it would be more reliable to put a grounding wire on the teacher. When Greet's mind finally turned to the idea that putting a grounding wire on the Lord of Thunder was more dangerous than a mouse putting a bell on a cat, the sky was filled with lightning and suddenly stopped. Gretel glanced over in his busy schedule and saw the two senior brothers subconsciously leaning inward and blocking his front with their bodies. The backs of both of them were stained with sweat, and within a short time, the mage's robes were soaked through. Alas, it is said that the closer you are to high voltage electricity, the higher the possibility of being broken down by the current. Senior brothers have also worked hard. Gretel was secretly shocked. In front, the Lord of Thunder lowered his eyes slightly, lowered his head and leaned on the back of the chair, speaking softly. I have speculated before that there may be tiny particles smaller than atoms flowing in the metal, forming an electric current. Just now, when I used Distinguish Bloodline to observe the solution, I really felt that the elements were excited by the spell, causing energy changes. Greet slowly opened her mouth. Teacher, aren't you? Can you really feel the energy changes of electron transitions? Can the legendary mage's observation power reach down to the atomic level? Of course, this is just a preliminary observation, and a lot of research is needed to draw conclusions. I will be in seclusion for a month. During this period, please do not come to my place for the time being. Yes. Yes. Greet and his senior brothers and sisters responded together. Thank God, we can stop holding regular meetings for the time being. We don't have to rack our brains to catch up on research progress. It doesn't matter if we fish a little bit. Verbo, take them to a meeting and report the meeting minutes to me next month. Yes. What? The teacher is in retreat for a month, but regular meetings still need to be held, and results still need to be reported? Help. Everyone turned around, the rear team became the front team, and they filed out. The study door closed, Archmage Carlyle sighed and leaned against the wall. Gretel, next time you propose something, can you give me a little warning first? This is the third time. The third time. The first time was during Phlogiston, when the Lord of Thunder stepped out of the Mage Tower, the energy surged and exploded, directly blowing a big hole in the mystery lock. The second time was the time of alternating current, when lightning surged from the Lord of Thunder, and the thunder and lightning contained in the meditation environment poured into the real world without warning. The third time is now, it exploded somehow. 3 times. He was there all 3 times. I'm almost scared to death. Once the legendary mage's meditation world explodes, no one here can escape. The other senior brothers and sisters nodded together. Archmage Baebo couldn't help but complain. Something was really going to happen just now. I might only be able to save myself, but I might even be seriously injured. Gretel, next time you have this potentially breakthrough point of view, you can divide it into 1, 2, or 3 steps, so that is everyone mentally prepared. Under the gaze of his brothers and sisters, Gretel could only smile. He has tried his best to control it. If he ignores it and reveals the electron transition, no, even if he reveals the cathode ray experiment. Headshot Maniac, Tower of Babel Exploder, Thunder Plague, there is always one of these titles that suits me. Fortunately, the senior brothers and sisters only complained verbally. After complaining, Archmage Baebo even cared about Gretel. So, how far has your research progressed now? Are there any difficulties? There is no way, in fact, the research of plastic energy system is like this, as long as it can't be exploded, it will be exploded to death. After following the teacher for decades, everyone is used to it. Greet was also unceremonious and asked his senior brothers and sisters for advice one by one on the difficult aspects of studying magic. Regarding data encapsulation, automatic comparison, and the underlying design of these magics, energy-shaping magicians don't know much about them. Fortunately, they have many connections. So, would you like to talk to magicians from the transformation or prophecy department? Distinguish bloodline is a magic from the prophecy system. They may know how to change it. The change system often uses identification techniques and has its own unique spells. Senior brother, help you introduce a few people. Thank you, senior brother. When I have collected enough information and researched it myself, but I really can't conquer it, I will ask senior brother to help me introduce someone. The long regular meeting is finally over. After Greet finished working in the hospital all afternoon, he returned to his mage tower and continued his research. Lin En's dismantling of blood-burning technique has also made initial progress. This configuration is used to lock the casting target. This configuration is used to help the casting materials directly enter the body of the casting target. It uses the resonance of the blood and the blood of the casting target. The stronger the resonance, the lower the repulsive force. The weaker the resonance, the higher the repulsive force. According to previous research, if the casting target is an alien beast, then the blood of the alien beast is used as the casting material. This is also the principle. This configuration is used to amplify the casting materials. The amplification ratio, there is a curve here, you can try to control. This configuration is used to detonate spellcasting materials through the air. If you use the spellcasting materials modified by Gretel, then the detonation part can be omitted. If you omit it, the cost of this spell can be reduced by a full 1/3. Detonating the casting materials through the air against the opponent's rejection is too expensive. It is necessary to control the saltpeter to turn into nitric acid and explode at the same time. It's very troublesome to change the direction. If the revised blood-burning technique is imprinted into the meditation environment, I can do it with my current ability. Lin put the final stroke on the scroll. According to his own modifications, he cast the spell repeatedly to confirm that the research results were correct, and stood up suddenly. Gretel, I want to use the meditation room and advance in retreat. Thanks to you, I originally thought it would take at least 3 months. He hugged Gretel tightly and strode downstairs. The door to the meditation room closed with a bang. In an instant, Mr. Trochka jumped up and turned into a black light and rushed towards him. A strong black panther lay at the door of the meditation room, blocking the door tightly. That's not true, it doesn't have to be like this. Greet opened her mouth and closed it. Open your mouth again, close it again. Then, he strode upstairs and rushed to the center of the mage tower. Moss. Mobilize the energy pool of the mage tower and make every effort to ensure a stable supply in the meditation room. I want Brother Lin En to advance smoothly without any interference. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Thanks to Ling Yi Ulyuan for making the character song for Little Gretel. The Easter egg chapter is placed at the end of the previous chapter. Did everyone see it? Last night I watched Ask the Sword until 1 o'clock in the morning. Why is it that we have traveled to another time and space? Everyone's golden fingers are all about medical skills, others can write so well, but I can write so poorly. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Jiolan 2020. Chapter 658. Master Lin En rushed into the meditation room with the door tightly closed, as if he would not come out until he advanced. On both sides of the door, Mr. Trochka and the Golden Skull, a pair of haranguing generals, blocked the door tightly and no one was allowed to get close. Aurora popped out of the laboratory to take a look, then rushed back to the laboratory with a black and gray face. As he walked, he muttered, I also want to advance quickly, I also want to advance quickly. Master Norwood directly carried the 2 apprentices and closed the door of another laboratory. Through the door, The shouts still kept coming. Use your brains. Use your brains. You are magicians, not pharmacists who prepare medicines. Why do you need to use this formula? Why do you prepare it like this? Use your brains and think about it. You will only use your hands for the rest of your life, and you will be stuck at level 1 for the rest of your life. Gretel. Everyone is working so hard to advance, as if I am a fool. Obviously I work 12 hours a day, eat for 2 hours, and meditate and sleep for 10 hours. He walked out of the mage tower dejectedly and blew a loud whistle. APA came in response and drove Greet to the hospital to continue the liver surgery. Obviously, Gretel's problem cannot be solved by advancement. Advancement cannot help him get an automatic blood tester or a mage tower. If you want a mage tower, you have to make money. If you want to make money, you have to work hard to provide free cesarean sections or sell painless delivery devices. If you want to sell more, just want to write a paper. Publish a paper. In half a month, enough data can be collected to make the paper meaningful. By the way, each paper has a reward between 100 and 1000 contribution points. If you write a few more papers, you can get closer to his mage tower. We will complete 200 painless deliveries, 200 painless vaginal deliveries, and at least 100 cesarean sections within half a month. He clasped his hands and stood on the steps at the door of the obstetrics building, facing the person in front of him. Spellcasters, midwives, and nurses lectured. Considering that the average hospital stay is 3 to 4 days for both vaginal and cesarean births, we just need to make sure to fill up all the wards. One after another, continuously, we will be able to do it, and even save some. A little margin. Without enough data, how can we encounter various situations? Among the complications of childbirth, postpartum hemorrhage, puerperal disease, and postpartum infection account for the vast majority, but these can be solved by treatment. The total proportion of more serious and potentially fatal complications is less than 10%. How could it be possible without increasing the amount of surgery? Without encountering and solving various situations, how can it be possible to prove that painless delivery and cesarean section are really effective? For more than a dozen surgeries, those things can only be regarded as case reports, and cannot be used to determine the surgical method. The spellcasters in the front row were all shocked. Aunt Salia and Ms. Axelerban, two prestigious spellcasters in the field of obstetrics, looked at each other and saw shock on each other's faces. One by one. Continuously. You want all the spellcasters to work in shifts. If we don't get enough sleep, we won't have spell slots. There are only 4 spellcasters in the baby-friendly medical clinic, including Ms. Axelerban, 1 is 13th level, 1 is 9th level, and 2 are 4th level. There are only 5 female priests on Grandma Salia's side, and 3 of them are level 2. Not all of these people have come here, only half are permanent residents at best. In addition to the part of the original casters allocated to the obstetrics department at Oak Grove Medical Clinic, the total number is only 8 at best. 8 healers, half a month, to deliver 500 women? Even if we add 20 midwives, the number will not be enough, right? Yes, Aunt Salia couldn't help it. You don't want to deliver babies to all the women in Nevis, do you? How is that possible? Gretel smiled. 60 wards, 8 therapists and 20 midwives, plus a large number of nurses. Can 500 cases a month be considered a problem? In his previous life, the number of patients admitted to any obstetrics department more than doubled. He turned slightly and pointed at the small brick red building behind him. There are only 60 wards in the maternity building. Even if there are 3 people in one room, it is impossible for all the mothers to come here to give birth. Besides, it is not strange for casters to sleep and work in shifts. But the old lady was still a little hesitant. She has been working in obstetrics for 30 years, so she naturally knows that the mother is working day and night, and even the caster has to watch at all times. However, they can take shifts. What about Greed? So far, Gretel has performed all the cesarean sections herself. It's not difficult, Gretel smiled slightly. It's just a cesarean section. I can still do it without a spell slot. Besides, not everything has to be done by me myself, come on. We're divided into groups. All members of the obstetrics team were divided into 2 groups by Greed. Midwives work day shift and night shift, spellcasters work day shift and night shift. Then, Gretel turned to the leader of the necromancers, Leon Carlos, who was waiting aside. In the research building at the back, how is the progress now? The results are coming soon, sir. Carlos answered a little less confidently. The results of the rabies vaccine mean that the project team is over, and many people may have to be sent back to their original positions. Although everyone has generally advanced 1 to 2 levels, what unique skills did they learn in Oak Forest that can make them better than the necromancers of the same period when they return? Maybe not. How many people are skilled in cesarean section of animals? 5 people, sir. Leon Carlos suddenly straightened his back. His own surgical skills have long been passed, and even some relatively minor surgeries, Greed has allowed him to perform independently, just watching from the side. How many people are proficient in delaying pain and spinal anesthesia? 2, sir. But I promise, give me another 5 days, at least 5 people can finish it, sir. How many people can use detection magic to see bones? Everyone, sir. That's it? Pick a person who will be responsible for looking at the bones, and use iodine to mark the 6th thoracic vertebra on the back. Those who are proficient in cesarean section will be divided into groups to follow me for the operation, and pull the hook. Yes, sir. Carlos' voice grew louder. Can I follow the surgery? If you can pull the hook and help, you will be able to do it independently one day, as long as you can do it independently, have suffering pain, spinal anesthesia, and surgical skills, and use therapeutic potions to help stop bleeding, you can perform cesarean section independently. Even if the project team is disbanded and I am returned to my original position, I still have the ability to make a living. Gretel was confident, turned to Ms. Axelban, nodded and smiled. Look, the problem is solved. It's just a cesarean section. I had the surgery for the first half of the year, and I've been able to practice it no matter what. You asked a necromancer to deliver the baby. Aunt Salia's voice suddenly became louder. Greet smiled and wagged her fingers. No, it's just surgery. There's nothing we can do about it. They have the basics and can learn quickly. As for the mother's disagreement. Why do pregnant women disagree with spinal anesthesia and hypnosis? Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Why did I only drop 2 monthly passes today? I'm so confused. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 659. Painless Delivery. Blake Shearer, the new editor of the Nevis Herald, pushed up his glasses and asked in disbelief. Black was once a student at Bridge Academy of Magic, studying necromancy. However, after 2 years of study, he could not even advance from a mage apprentice to a formal magician. He was judged to have no talent and no value in training. And the employment opportunities for necromancers are extremely narrow, so narrow that it's sad. In contrast, it was the intellectual education he received while learning magic that allowed him to find a job as an editor. The Nevis Herald is not a mainstream newspaper in Nevis, but it is not comparable to a third-rate tabloid. The target readers are mainly businessmen, workshop owners, and city hall clerks, those who have a reasonable income, a certain degree of education, and a conscious obligation to change society. Of course, if you want to change society, you must keep up with technological changes. As for technological changes, the most cutting-edge trends are in arcana and magic, as well as the latest research of magicians. Blake Shearer got the job, hosting a column in the Nevis Herald dedicated to informing citizens about magic that could change their lives. To this end, he has been keeping in touch with his classmates and seniors in the college, and also heard the latest version from them. Yes, painless delivery. His classmate Daniel Motor answered affirmatively. Have you heard of cesarean section? There was an article in the last issue of Arcane and Magic. It was developed by Master Nodmark at our Oak Grove Medical Clinic. Now he is leading us to research on cesarean section. Painful childbirth. Blake Shearer certainly knows about cesareans. He even went to the White Tower to borrow these two journals and asked Daniel for a lot of inside information. Using this information, he published an article. Cesarean section can greatly reduce the maternal mortality rate. It can be said to be one of the most useful medical methods in this era. Unfortunately, the cost of a cesarean section, magic, and surgery together is as high as 2,000 gold coins. This is let it be destined to serve only the rich and powerful. As soon as this article came out, the sales volume of the current newspaper increased by 500 copies, and readers continued to write and inquire. For this, he received a bonus of 1 gold coin. The editor-in-chief of the newspaper appreciated him very much and promised to give him a salary increase at the end of the year. What a pity. If there was better content that was more relevant to our readership, you would get a salary increase now. Be promoted to senior editor. Young man, you are the only editor with a magic background in our newspaper, and I am optimistic about you. Blake was greatly encouraged and came to find new content from his classmates. This time, he got a surprise. I know you think cesarean section is too expensive, but this time is different. Daniel leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table, his eyes shining. The cost of painless delivery is much lower. The current price is 100 gold coins for the entire painless delivery. If it is painless only for the most painful few hours, it only costs a dozen gold coins. It's so good. Blake was immediately excited. A dozen gold coins is almost equal to the income of the readers of the Nevis Herald for several months, half a year, or at most a year. With such an income, my wife will suffer less pain during childbirth. There must be someone willing. Someone will definitely care about this news. Blake's first thought was to apply to visit a medical clinic. Before he could finish his thoughts, he was photographed back by himself. What an interview! Through interviews alone, you won't be able to get the first-hand, freshest information that readers care about most. To make big news, readers should be immersed in it. And it just so happened that his wife was about to give birth. Blake gritted his teeth, took out 15 gold coins, thought for a while, and then discharged 5 gold coins that were covered with light, one after another. As a new editor, his 1-year salary, plus bonuses and deducting food expenses, the rest is here. My dear, I will take you to a good place. Maybe it can help you give birth safely and avoid a lot of pain. The carriage stopped at the door of the Oak Grove Infirmary, or, as the coachman called it, the Red Cross, and someone was immediately there to pick it up. Seeing his wife's heavy belly and struggling to walk, 2 barbarians even brought out a stretcher and directly helped her onto the stretcher. Are you coming here to give birth? Madam will be sent directly to the Red House. Sir, go this way and register at the front desk of the clinic first. After registering his name, age, address, and month of pregnancy, and paying 3 days of hospitalization expenses 1 gold coin per day, Blake Shearer was taken to join his wife. In the corridor inside the Red House, silent nurses in white clothes walked around quickly, carrying stretchers, changing bedding, and sending pregnant women. Including the mothers in labor, the stretcher bed weighing more than 200 pounds was as light as nothing in the hands of 2 petite nurses in white. Blake always found the way they moved a bit strange. I rubbed my eyes, then rubbed my eyes again, and suddenly realized. Isn't this a skeleton soldier trying to hide his skin? The necromancer's favorite trick when he was in the academy. Why are the workers all skeletons? Is it still too late for me to take my wife away now? However, the wallet told him that 3 gold coins had been paid, and he had agreed in advance that no refund would be given. Reason told him that Oak Grove Medical Clinic is the safest delivery care facility in Nevis, and the fees are much cheaper than hiring a midwife and a magician to come to your home together. The front desk told him that due to his status as a magician, his wife could receive half the discount on delivery services at Oak Grove Medical Center. Forget it, people can't have trouble with their wallets. Blake Shearer accompanied his wife and was taken to a small empty room. Except for a bed, a stool, and a deer antler on the wall, there was nothing in the room. Madam, please face the wall, sit down on the stool, sit up straight. Take off your shirt and expose your back. Yes, that's fine. The female nurse who guided them had a gentle smile and a friendly language. A spellcaster will come over to check you later. He is male, but he can only see your back. He is at least 1 meter away from you and will not touch you. Don't be afraid. Wait, why male? Blake and his wife asked at the same time. The female nurse's smile remains unchanged. Oh, because all female spellcasters work in the delivery room. As much as possible, let men do these tasks that don't come into contact with the mother's body. At this time, the door opened, and a necromancer walked in quickly, and looked face to face with Blake. The two of them were startled, and the necromancer immediately retreated. Old classmate? Then I don't have to do the work, you can do it yourself. Use detection magic to look at your wife, and use mage's trick to die and mark the 6th thoracic vertebra on the back. This is for painless for labor positioning, don't find the wrong position. After saying that, there was a bang and the door closed. Blake Shearer. He had no choice but to roll up his sleeves. Fortunately, in the process of learning to become a necromancer, the knowledge I mastered was not fully returned to the teacher. After stumbling and stumbling, I finally found the 6th thoracic vertebra. After completing the marking, he sent his wife out and quietly grabbed the old classmate. Hey, I did this job, can I waive some of the treatment costs? What are you thinking? You didn't charge these fees at all. Master Nordmark had to do a project and waived a large amount of fees in the name of research. Otherwise, do you think the accommodation fee of 3 gold coins is enough? Stop talking. Next inspection. The next check is also done by a male mage. Moreover, he is also a male necromancer. Blake Shearer watched helplessly as his wife was helped onto the bed, her legs spread and raised. Fortunately, there is no need to take off clothes, only the nurse repeatedly asks, there are no metal objects on the body, right? There are no metal objects on the edges of the clothes, the belt, or the pockets, right? Then a necromancer knelt between his wife's legs and unleashed his magic, looking from top to bottom, front to back, and from all angles. Not only look, but also compare with the ruler. The anteroposterior diameter of the pelvic entrance is 11 cm. Interspinous diameter of ischium, 9.8 cm. Width of sciatic notch, 5.8 cm. The biparietal diameter of the fetal head is 8.9 cm. What is this guy doing? Judging from the casting gesture, it seems to be the detection magic he used just now, but can he see the size of the fetus head in this way? Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Thanks to @HJ1942 for the 100 starting coins. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Giolan 2020. Chapter 660. Full of questions, Blake Shearer continued to send his wife inside. Next, he saw a series of inspections. Apply oil to your wife's belly and touch her belly, fetal head down, facing the mother's back, the placenta is in a normal position. Fetal heart rate monitoring, fetal heart rate frequency is 150 times, normal. Old classmate, haven't you read Master Nordmark's paper on ultrasound detection? Blood test, blood type B, take this blood sample and put it in an ice pack, give it to Mr. Appa. Old classmate, haven't you read Master Nordmark's paper on blood types? Measure blood pressure, electrocardiogram, blood oxygen. Blake Shearer expressed joy in one part and sorrow in another. Fortunately, with so many tests available, my wife seems to be much more sure of a safe delivery. What is worrying is that he seems to have been left behind by the academic world. These latest academic results require supplementary papers. So do I have to pay for all these inspections? He grabbed his old classmate Daniel and asked quietly. Daniel smiled and counted each item to him. Prenatal fetal position check is 100 gold coins, electrocardiogram monitoring is 50 gold coins, blood pressure monitoring is 50 gold coins, blood oxygen monitoring is 50 gold coins, prenatal blood test is 100 gold coins. Blake was shaky. Brother, what you said before is that it only costs a dozen gold coins. Why are there suddenly hundreds and hundreds of dollars? This money is collected too harshly. Of course, because it is still in the research stage, all the money will be waived after you sign the cooperation research agreement. Daniel smiled. Including if the delivery is not smooth and must be converted to cesarean section, the cost of cesarean section is also included in the research agreement. All you need to pay is the basic medical expenses and the optional painless delivery expenses. Hoarse screams came through the walls. Daniel turned his head and glanced outside. Actually, if you are a truly impoverished mother, these fees can be waived. But I think you are not short of these gold coins, aren't you? Of course it's missing. Half a year's worth of savings. Who wants to pay for it if they can save it? Blake roared inwardly. He grabbed his old classmate and lowered his voice. So can this money be waived? Well, if you must declare the exemption for extremely poor patients, you can still be exempted from it. Daniel had obviously been asked this question more than once, and he answered very skillfully. But first of all, there are insufficient beds in the medical center, so whether a very poor patient can be admitted to the hospital depends entirely on luck. Secondly, whether a very poor patient can receive labor analgesia basically depends on luck, and it depends on which experimental group she is selected to. The office door was pushed open with a bang. A middle-aged nurse with big hands and feet poked her head in and shouted. Master Daniel. The fifth bed in the delivery room, it's time for analgesia. I'll go right away. Daniel jumped up and ran out. After about 2 or 3 minutes, he walked back slowly. There was a little blood on the corner of his robe. It was obvious that he had just returned from the delivery bed. You see, I'm just a member of the treatment team and I can't decide how to group them together. So, wouldn't it be nice to spend some money to make sure your wife can live a more comfortable life? Old classmate, your statement gives me a very strange association. Although he was complaining crazily in his heart, for the sake of making his wife more comfortable, Blake still accepted the kindness of his old classmate. There is no free spell, no gratuitous kindness. Magicians, and everyone who deals with magicians, know this. In fact, the owner of Oak Grove Medical Clinic was extremely kind to waive the examination fee, even if it was in the name of research. As for those women who cannot receive treatment, and those who can only endure the pain of giving birth, get in line. Why didn't you pay? Alternatively, you can hire an outside midwife, which is cheaper. He accompanied his wife through the entire examination process and received a lot of instructions, including next week, or when the water breaks, or whatever the situation is, Send her here immediately. Then, the couple was sent out of the hospital. Door. It hasn't started yet, but you want to live until production? The little red building next door offers 100 gold coins a day and welcomes you anytime. Accepts payment in gold coins or contribution points. For long-term stays of more than 3 months, the price is negotiable. Blake wrote down this valuable information. 3 days later, he slapped the receipt from Oak Grove Hospital and the birth certificate with the newborn baby's footprints on the editor's desk together with the new manuscript. To reimburse. Why do you need the newspaper to reimburse you for giving birth to a son? The editor-in-chief raised his head from the large oak table, took off his glasses, and wiped them carefully. Then, putting my glasses back on, I started reading Blake Shearer's submission. Only 15 gold coins. Pain will be away from you during childbirth. We are delighted to find that in Nevis, another new thing that is beneficial to mothers has appeared. At Oak Grove Medical Clinic, which has published papers on cesarean section in arcane and magic, another new product has been developed. Painful delivery technology. A very good article. It has opinions, facts, high credibility, and an accurate grasp of the target readers. The editor-in-chief became elated after reading only half of it. After reading the entire draft, he burst into laughter. Dear Blake, I guarantee that this article can increase the sales of the newspaper by 1,000 copies. Or even 2,000 copies. You are really an amazing editor, with a keen sense of smell and solid writing. He held the manuscript in his hand, shaking loudly. After shaking it twice, he quickly put it down with care and pressed it down with a copper paperweight. I swear, I will definitely apply to my boss to promote you to senior editor. I will definitely do it. Then reimburse me. My dear Blake, the newspaper's regulations for editing fees are that ordinary manuscripts should not exceed 5 silver coins, and important manuscripts should not exceed 1 gold coin. Although I am very touched that you rely on your wife to obtain first-hand information, rules are rules. With a brush, the manuscript paper was pulled out from under the copper paperweight and began to be torn apart. I can apply. I can apply for special subsidies. It can be doubled. Tier dash. 3 gold coins. If the feedback is good enough, there will be a bonus. For sure. The next day, Blake Shearer's new article appeared in the Nevis Herald. The headline on the front page, a full page on the second page. Moreover, the final number of copies of this newspaper is definitely more than 2,000. Dear Blake. You know, we got a big order. The order from the Congress, 2,000 copies. An additional 2,000 copies. Here, this is your bonus, the newspaper will never break its promise. So when I gave birth to my son, the newspaper paid for it for me in the end, right? Blake Shearer touched the inside of the money bag and saw 1, 2, 3, 4, a dozen heavy gold coins, and raised the corners of his mouth in joy. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Giolan 2020. Chapter 661. The content published by the Nevis Herald made the business of Oak Grove Medical Clinic, or to be precise, the Red House branch of Oak Grove Medical Clinic, suddenly pick up. What do people like most? First, it is free or discounted, and secondly, it is free or discounted for a limited period, and the period may be very short. Especially one like Oak Grove Medical Clinic. Huge discounts. Basic fee is 3 gold coins, examination fee is exempted from 350 gold coins, huge discount, basic fee is 3 gold coins, examination fee is waived and cesarean section fee, a total of 2,000 gold coins. There is a limited time limit, the caster cannot continue the discount indefinitely, and the time limit may be very short, it takes half a month to collect enough data to publish a paper, and after half a month, there may no longer be available. Anyone who has had the experience of grabbing eggs in a supermarket, or has seen relevant advertisements, will know how crowded the supermarket entrance can be in an instant on the morning when the discount day starts. Rolling shutter doors can be squeezed through, customers can squeeze into fights at the door, elderly people can be squeezed down, and stampedes can occur. If it weren't for the discount provided by Oak Grove Medical Clinic, which was only open to pregnant women, and those who were about to give birth, the door of the medical clinic would have been packed with people. Even so, after the newspaper was published, the number of inquiries and hospitalizations also increased significantly. After all, you can't afford 2,000 gold coins, you can't afford it with hundreds of gold coins, but you can still afford 3 gold coins, or 20 gold coins, right? Gretel and the healers at the medical center were at ease. Rich people are treated, and people without money are treated. Anyway, the requirement of 500 cases in half a month will not change. Moreover, the level of service to patients will not change. As long as they are not big customers who pay in full, they can only receive treatment here by relying on Oak Forest's free bill offer. Paying users. Tisk, those few coins are just pocket change. If you don't want to learn crafts here, these 3 melons and 2 dates are really not uncommon. What Greet really values is the special clients who are attracted to Oak Grove Medical Clinic because of its increased reputation. For example, today's person. Mr. Carlos. Mr. Carlos. There is a woman at the door with a big belly. We can't understand her. The security guard on duty hurried in to report. Gretel didn't care about the chores, and all these tasks were piled on Leon Carlos. What a level 2 necromancer, who has taken on the role of hospital director. Or the responsibilities of the assistant hospital director. And there was no promotion or salary increase. Except for the opportunity for additional surgery and a few casual instructions from Greet, there was nothing. Carlos enjoyed it. To learn a skill, you should work more. The more comprehensive the ability you master, the more you can make yourself irreplaceable. Work harder and strive to become Mr. Master's disciple. Master Nordmark has only accepted apprentices so far, not formal disciples. He quickened his pace and rushed to the door of the hospital, where he saw 2 strong and tall women standing in the middle of the hall. One was more nervous and closer to the door, while the other kept staring at the antlers on the wall, his body slightly arched, vaguely alert. Just looking at their body shapes, postures, and bulging muscles, you can tell that these 2 people should be extraordinary warriors, and their levels are not low. A bunch of dirty golden half-long hair sticks to the side of the face. He had thick hands and feet, his cheeks were flushed red by the sea breeze, and he looked a little cowed. The abdomen is somewhat bulging, and the palms of the hands are subconsciously protecting the abdomen. She has long black hair, tied high into a ponytail, and looks neat and tidy. Her abdomen was bulging high, and she looked like she was 7 or 8 months pregnant, but her sword-holding posture was still fierce. Led by Bernard, several barbarian guards subconsciously surrounded her. Except for Bernard, the other barbarians were on guard with nervousness, and seemed unable to defeat her. What level are these 2? The blonde one doesn't look like he's at a high level, level 5? Level 6? The one with black hair seems to be taller, level 7? Or even 8th grade. These 2 are giving birth here and are struggling with pain. Can the midwives hold them down? If the trouble comes to the point where a cesarean section is needed, can Sir do it? Or do you want to go to the dark gold skeleton? Are they willing to accept being knifed by a skeleton? Carlos thought in confusion, threw himself a language proficient, stepped forward and bowed slightly. 2 ladies, please sit down in the consulting room. Let's register your name and basic information. At #UN%\U0026*. With a click, a bunch of foreign languages were spoken back to me. Sure enough, it is not the lingua franca of the Kingdom of Kent, nor even the lingua franca of the mainland. I can't stand it without magic. You have to add the casting fee of language proficiency to the charged items, or the cost of temporarily hiring a translator, huh. He made a secret note in his mind and invited them into the consulting room. The two ladies looked at each other. The black-haired lady calmly took a step back and raised her hand slightly. She came first. Let her go in first. The blonde female warrior took a step back slightly, and then cautiously entered under the urging of the other party. Carlos prompted her to close the door and whispered. Name. Melissa. Melissa Hempery. She adjusted her black veil and pretended she was a widow in response to inquiries. Unexpectedly, Carlos didn't care about any of this. He just followed the items on the form and asked them line by line. Where are you from? Age. Occupation. Level. New world. 28 years old, professional, just came here, haven't found a job yet. Ma'am, we are asking about your extraordinary level so that we can provide you with appropriate medical care. Carlos raised his head and smiled comfortingly at her. Looking at your appearance, you should be a warrior. Yes, warrior, level 5 warrior. Melissa nodded repeatedly and tightened her skirt uneasily. The money bag under her skirt contained the savings she had accumulated over the years, 350 gold coins. According to what the newspaper said, giving birth at Oak Grove Hospital should be enough. Provided there is a discount. If you can't apply for free treatment, this amount of money will not be enough to cover the cost of cesarean section. And can these magical fees and surgical fees be waived? The newspaper said that Master Mage's research experiment will only last for half a month. After half a month, no one will know. How long have you been pregnant? 6 months, sir. If I really need an cesarean section when I give birth, can I get a credit first? She asked eagerly. I can work in the oak forest to pay off my debts. I just saw that there are no female escorts here. I thought you might need. Based on Mr. S' personality, he might be able to perform an autopsy on her for free, provided he can do it. Carlos complained silently and comforted her with a pleasant expression. Madam, don't worry. Please register the relevant information first, do a test, and I will apply for you. Maybe there will be good news. Don't worry, stress can also hurt the child. After registering her name and address, and agreeing to come to the medical clinic tomorrow to wait for news, Melissa opened the door and went out. The black-haired woman held the long sword and sat outside the consulting room with her eyes closed for a long time. Then she stepped inside and sat down opposite Carlos. Name. Anna. Where did it come from? Occupation. Level. Level 7 warrior. How many months are you pregnant? 7 and a half months. Carlos lowered his head and brushed the records. Hearing this sentence, he raised his head slightly. 7 and a half months. Madam, you can check at the medical office. If you need to give birth as soon as possible, we will arrange for you to move in immediately. If the pregnancy is in good condition, it is recommended that you wait until natural delivery. What if I want to live here until I give birth? This. Carlos stopped writing and looked at the lady's appearance and clothing vaguely. His appearance is not too beautiful, but he has an awe-inspiring heroic spirit. The skin is not considered delicate, and traces of Northland frost can even be clearly seen. However, with such intensity of training and such wind and snow, the delicateness of her skin was obviously beyond the normal range. He is wrapped in a thick duffel coat, and his long hair is tied up with a rope. He looks low-key and simple, but the scabbard of the long sword in his hand comes from a high-level magic beast. I don't know the language of the Kingdom of Kent, but I can talk to him without any problems. Either I can at least understand him, or I have a magic weapon with language proficiency fixed in my body. The former means a good education, and the latter means financial ability beyond the professional level. In short, This dark-haired lady is richer than she looks, quite a bit. Ma'am, I personally don't recommend living here forever. Carlos replied thoughtfully. Our accommodation here is limited. There are 3 people per room in the ordinary ward, and there is only 1 room in the high-end ward. Once you move in, you are not allowed to leave the medical center unless necessary, and there is no place for daily martial arts practice. Moreover, you need 100 gold coins a day. With a snap, a standard magic crystal was slapped in front of him. The White Tower's certificate of deposit is specially issued for those customers who are not magicians and cannot obtain a mage badge. It can be used in Nevis and other places where parliamentary magic towers are established. That's fine, rich people do whatever they want. Anyway, the VIP ward in the Red House is always full of people. 100 gold coins a day, food not included, all inspection fees paid by yourself. If you are a high-quality customer like this, stay here if you like. Madam, I must make a statement to you. Due to the composition of medical casters, some of your examinations and treatments will be performed by necromancers or other male casters. Carlos added cautiously. Of course, there are discounts for big customers. If you are concerned, you can also ask and we will try our best to arrange other magicians or priests to treat you. The black-haired female warrior frowned slightly. Soon, her brows relaxed again. It's okay. I was just going to see what Oak Grove Medical Clinic was like. Carlos called a necromancer over and asked him to accompany Ms. Anna to go through admission procedures, conduct various examinations, and choose a room in the VIP ward. After all the procedures were completed and the ward door was closed, Anna carefully checked the surroundings and began to write at the desk. Dear Miss Veronica. The Single Dog author wishes everyone a happy Valentine's Day. Please reach out and ask for subscriptions, monthly tickets, recommendation votes, book reviews, and all kinds of things. Thanks to @Higa for the 10,000 starting coins. Thanks to @Diamond3 for the 2,000 starting coins.